Do 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 do. Good evening, gang. Oh, Coop is joining me right now. Here we go. Bear with us while we're still getting the show set up, shared, and all that fun stuff. So just give us about a minute or so, and we will be ready to start the show. There he is.
There you go. Matt, sorry, man. We went a little late with the with jukebox, so we normally don't go that long. We did go longer.
That's okay. Just we are already live.
Okay, no
just figured
problem.
I'd save some time and get us set up
Oh, I
here.
appreciate it. Good job, man.
Yeah. Just getting show shared out and making sure
Absolutely, I'll do the same here.
some other stuff is set up and good to go, and then we will proceed with the show. We have a long range of topics to talk about tonight.
Absolutely.
I know that there's a couple of things you want to talk about, some stuff you got
Yep.
some backlash on. We got some more funny, lighthearted beefs, mostly on my end about just stuff that kind of goes on in Facebook groups. We're going to talk a little bit about baseball tonight as well.
Yes.
We talked about a little earlier this week, so we'll get into that. And then of course we're going to talk about the robbery at the Aroa CLE warehouse.
Yep.
Which also houses warehousing for Petoro. Very, very interesting.
Yep. Absolutely. It's been a good week for stuff to talk about.
Yeah, there's been a lot of interesting cigar releases. There's other news. There's been some PCA promotions that have happened. So there's definitely a lot to converse about, so to speak.
I got one audible I want to pull when we light up the cigar.
Okay. Does it have to do with 9/11?
No.
Or something? Oh, okay.
It doesn't. But we could tie something in certainly with that too.
All right, cool.
Yep. But it's something related to a something we talked about on a previous show that came my way. So
okay, all right,
yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. I am almost done. Man, this takes a lot of time. I am almost there. Hang in there, guys, and then we will be ready to roll.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a fun Saturday night. Come on. We had a fun show this week on Smoking Tobacco. If anyone didn't catch it, on Thursday night, we had the wonderful Klaus Kellner on, formerly of Davidoff. Well, kind of still with Davidoff. But also he started his own company, Kellner Tobacco.
Yep.
So that was a good show. We got to kind of talk to him about what he's been up to and kind of growing up under his father's.
He's a great guy, Klaus.
Very, very nice guy.
When I remember when I first met him at a trade show, he really picked my brain. And he was really trying to just get a lot of perspectives on things. And I always appreciated that of him. He's just constantly, the guy knows a lot. I mean, which is amazing. So I've had a chance to have him on a couple of times as well.
Yeah.
Yep. We had on Coop, we've had a couple of big shows. We had Corey Bappert, the CEO of Oliva. Rare interview with him. There's not a lot of interviews he does. If you haven't heard of Corey, you're gonna be really surprised. The guy was an unbelievable guest. And then we had Hostos Fernandez Casada on. Again, a guy who doesn't do a lot of interviews, and he wowed us a lot. So I think we both had some really good shows.
Yeah, we got a busy lineup coming up too on the regular show.
This has been a tough week. It was a tough week to book guests this week because of the two guys party. So everyone at the two guys party. So this was when we got some stuff. We got our things. We were okay with that. So that's good. But yeah, I forgot how many people. One day I'll get up there for it.
Yeah, I'd love for you to come up. I'd love for you to come to New England. I would be your personal tour guide. I volunteer to drive you around.
Yeah, I'm gonna do New England in two parts. There's gonna be a Rhode Island part, and then there'll be a New Hampshire part. And you'll be hosting me on the New Hampshire part, and I have someone
Yeah.
hosting me on the Rhode Island part. So, um, I still want to try to do that this year.
All right. We'll be
So yeah,
around.
yep. So I'm still conservatively traveling, but I'm not traveling either.
Well, with that, let's get this show on the road.
Yep.
I gotta officially get it going.
Yep.
In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokingTobacco.com, and I am joined once again by my good friend, Mr. William Cooper. I botched that one. From CigarCoop.com. And we have a long range of topics that we're going to get into tonight. I'm going to let Coop kind of start the show. I know he's got some things he wants to do first. We're going to cut in light, and then we're going to get into our first topic, which is a Coop topic. And then we'll just kind of we'll go from there. And that is Coop gave some feedback on some stuff this week and got some backlash. And I know he wants to talk about that.
Yep.
So Coop, start us off with what you wanted to do, and then you can we'll just kind of go right into that first topic.
All right. Tonight I'm gonna light up the Alec Bradley Magic Toast, Robusto. Now, I did get this cigar at the trade show, right? So some of these are a little drier out there. So when I got back, I put this into my regular humidor for safekeeping. We were talking about cigar gadgets, and I think we mentioned there's a device that you can measure the humidity in a cigar.
Yes, Cigar Medics.
Cigar Medics. Well, they sent me one.
Oh wow, look at that.
They sent me one, yeah.
That's cool.
And it's really easy to use. So what I'm going to do is basically what you do is you kind of take the lid off and you kind of insert the probes in here, but you got to do it on a flat surface.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I insert the probes. You're not going to be able to see this piece, unfortunately, but insert it. And then what happens is it stabilizes at a humidity level. So it kind of starts going down from like 70. And once it stabilizes, you'll know the humidity in here. Now, what you want is something that is in the 60 to 70 range. Okay, is what you want. So anything above a 60 is good.
Mm-hmm.
And what I will show is as I pull this out, hopefully you can see the number. It's a little hard. It is 66.
Okay, cool.
So this is even though being dry, I was able to get it back, and I've really been playing with this. It's very accurate. I'm sorry you can't now went back and reset to 0, but it's very accurate. And it's really good because I did play around taking some cigars out of the humidor, and I saw a couple of cigars go down to like 37.
Oh wow.
So it definitely is accurate, and I'm telling you, my better humidors had the better humidity is what I'm going to say. So definitely recommend this. I definitely recommend one of these. It's very easy to set up and calibrate. So I'm happy with it. I don't know if they heard the Spare Notes show or not. I should say he must have, because he said, I heard you talked about this at some point. So he must have heard the show. But why did he send you one? I don't know. So
I know. I feel gypped if that's the case.
Yeah. But yeah. So
I am gonna smoke an Opus X, a very special Opus X. I'm going to smoke a 2015 vintage Forbidden. I want to say, is this the what is this size? Oh, it's not listed.
Yep.
I think it's the Taurus de Bull Natural.
Ooh.
From 2015.
Yeah.
So this is good. This is a nice vintage. I'm gonna smoke this tonight. As we remember 20 years ago, September 11th.
Yeah.
I just want to take the time to kind of bring that up and say that we remember, and we it's a tragic point in our country's history. And we should never forget. And we dedicate this show tonight to them, to everyone that we lost, and the families that were affected from that horrible tragedy. Just didn't want to I didn't want to really go about the show without mentioning it. I think it's important to mention.
Yeah, and this is a special cigar for me, the Magic Toast. It was a top 25 cigar for me in 2018. I'll make a comment. I grew up in New York City. I lived in Brooklyn and Staten Island.
Hmm.
And Staten Island was very hard hit by 9/11 because a lot of people who work in the World Trade Center lived on Staten Island and they take the ferry over. I was very fortunate, Matt. I don't know anyone who perished in the towers directly.
Hmm.
However, I know a ton of people who had loved ones that did, friends and family that did perish in that. So I'm very sensitive as well. And I lucked out the day, I don't lucked out, but I was supposed to be in New York City that day and I didn't have, I changed my plans and ended up working in Jersey that day.
Wow.
So yeah, it was just, and it was a last minute decision. So I didn't work at the World Trade Center when I was in Manhattan. I was in Midtown. It changed. It changed everyone's life forever in New York. I'm sure all around the world, but again, Staten Island was really hit hard by this. People don't realize there's streets that they have memorial street names named after the people who died. It's so Staten Island, like I said, it was hit hard by it.
It's a yeah, I mean it's something that's changed a lot of people, places, and
Uh huh.
things. And the biggest thing we can do is just always remember, and
Yep.
always have those people in our thoughts, and their families.
Yep.
And and just we pray that we never live through something like that again.
No, I
um
know. We don't. Oh, we don't hope we don't.
Very, very
Yeah,
so
yeah,
difficult.
it is. I had all four of my children were born by then, but I had two of them under the age of two at that point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they don't really have as much of a concept. My daughter, who's the oldest, does. I think she's the one who was very well aware. She was watching the coverage and stuff. So she does, but my sons, they don't. So it's important, like you say, never forget so they understand the importance of this for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
I was probably like 8 years old when it happened. And I remember a great deal of it.
Hmm.
But I'm also a big historian, and I like to read a lot of like historical stuff. And um so I mean, I've even gone back and I've read so many different things about it,
Yep.
and just or a lot of stuff from history. I,
Yep.
I like I like reading about history. Which is funny because when I was in school, I didn't like to read shit, and like now I like to read. But I only like to read historical nonfiction. I don't like to read like
Yeah.
fantasy, because it's just it's for me like reading. The only thing that keeps me engaged, because I have such a short attention span. The only thing that keeps me engaged is the fact that like when I'm reading something, I'm like, well, this actually really happened. Like, what happened? Like, I need to know. If it's fantasy, I'm like, I don't give a shit what happened because it didn't have. It's not real. So, I think that's kind of what keeps me tied in when I read. It's like, oh, I really need to know like what happened because it's real. Um, but anyway, we're getting way off topic. So this show is dedicated to them. We have lit up. We're starting the show. Coop, you earlier this week gave some feedback on a cigar known as the Irish Car Bomb that was released through United Cigars. It was part of their Firecracker series for St. Patrick's Day, and I think I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm gonna let you. I'll let you grab the baton.
Yeah. So, the first of all, the folks at United Cigars, Oliver, Dave Garofalo owns the brand. Oliver pretty much runs the day-to-day operations. Great people. They're really doing some great stuff. The Irish Car Bomb was released as part of the Firecracker series. It was a Candela Maduro barber pole in a 3-inch format.
Hmm.
Um, and we did some press coverage on it when it got released. Seemed like people were very interested in it. Uh, the Cigar Authority, which Dave Garofalo hosts, did a whole show on it, right?
Right.
So and it seemed like it got good feedback. People wanted the cigar. Um, I tend to be a little slower getting cigar reviews out than maybe the average reviewer. And this one was much slower in getting out than most cigars. So, I mean, this was released probably early March. So it was 6 months. That is a long time. But I did smoke the cigar and I liked it a lot. It scored a solid 89, which is on a Coop scale. That's something you'd buy. It's a very good cigar. Excuse me. But It got some negative feedback, the review. And I don't think the review, this feedback was directed at me, but indirectly, I think it was, and I'll talk about that. Look, Irish Car Bomb, it has multiple meanings. It's a popular drink in the bars, right? So,
Right.
for years, I've heard about this. I don't, I'm not big in the bar scene or anything like that, but I've heard it ordered. Cigar gets released, and again, I didn't hear anything negative about it. But when the review came out, there was some sensitivity to the name Irish Car Bomb, for people who were in Ireland. And, it's a very sensitive part of their history and their period, and a very tragic part of it. And I think there was some offense that was taken for that.
Yeah,
I think
Smoking Nicole as an Irish woman, well, half Irish woman, her mother, being born in Ireland, and her stepbrother,
Yeah.
her half brother being born in Ireland, took a lot of offense to it.
Yeah.
So,
So okay, and so, and I think I'm gonna address that too. And I think I took some heat on it. Why did I review it? So I'm gonna give you my answer, and I'll be transparent here. Had I known it, I probably would have had a conversation about this with Oliver or whatever directly. I thought of this more as the drink. I really did. And on Cigar Coop, I have some pretty high standards. There are things that won't be covered if I find them offensive, or if I find it's lifting a trademark and stuff. We talked about that. So I am sensitive to that. I could tell you that I talked to Oliver this week. There was honestly, I don't think they knew either. Okay. And, I don't think, and I would say this, they are taking it seriously. Okay. So it's not like they're trying to, they recognize that there was an issue with this. And I think they're going to address this. Okay.
yeah.
Going forward. And I have confidence in that. So I'll apologize on my end if it was anything that I did to offend it. Again, there's parts that maybe just call me a little naive. I should have known better, but the cigar was a good cigar. Again, in the end, I'm reviewing the cigar, not the marketing thing on it. So, but like I said, I think everyone, the people at United were not looking to offend anyone, and I think they were trying to tie a concept in with something. And here's the other thing I'll just mention: I never heard anyone take offense to the drink. Had I heard people take offense to the drink, call it my naivety for not being in bars enough or drinking enough, I probably would have had a conversation with these guys on it. So I'm confident that this will be addressed. I don't think anyone meant to hurt anyone. And I'll say, if anyone got hurt on my end, I apologize on it. The review will stay on Coop. I'm going to make that clear on that. The review's not coming down because, again, I assess the cigar for what it is. So, and the time was put in that. So, but like I said, I kind of see it. I could kind of see it, but I don't think anyone meant any harm here. And the United folks are great folks. These are great folks involved. They're some of the best people in the industry, and I'm confident it will be corrected.
Yeah, I mean, I won't really comment too much on it. I didn't have a lot to say on it. For me, like, I wasn't really offended by it. I thought the same thing. I thought of the drink. I'm like, all right,
That's what I thought. Yeah,
interesting concept. Didn't really think anything bad of it.
No one complained on the Cigar Authority. I looked at the comments, right? No one complained about it right then. So I think they got some feedback after that show, though, is what happened.
Yeah, I think it probably could have been after. I think there's a lot of people who
there was a food delivery for my son. I didn't see. That's
what
why
happened?
Literally, I have the bay open the garage, and there was a food delivery. I guess my son ordered food.
Has that ever happened to you before while you're on the air?
Never, because I kept. It's a nice night. And I just kept the.
Oh, that happens to us all the time.
Okay.
All the time. We'll be on
sorry
the
for the distraction. Yeah.
No, don't even. That's happened to. We were in here. Me and Nicole were in here. We were live on the air. We had everything all set up, and I don't know if this lady just saw the door was open and didn't know where to go because she saw we were in here, And then she saw like all like the lighting and the cameras and the microphones and was like like, oh, what are they doing? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I kind of give her like a okay, cool, and like very subtle off camera. And then she like comes in and I'm like, oh no, like we're good. And she
Yeah.
just like puts it down and leaves. And I'm
Yeah.
like, what the hell's going on here?
So sorry about that distraction.
Oh yeah, no, I get it. Trust me, I've been there. So anyway, I forget where oh yeah, so we were talking about the car, but yeah, I mean, like I said, that's my piece on it. I think you've said your piece.
Yep. Yep. I'm not angry at anyone for giving that feedback, just so you know. But
Yeah, no,
um,
I totally hear you.
yeah. I'll say this: the cigar's a good cigar. I don't know if you've smoked it, but I'll tell you what.
I actually haven't had it. No.
Yeah, it's a good cigar. It's a very nice firecracker edition, and it's $30 for 5-pack. I think they're pretty much all sold out at this point, though. But I hope they maybe find another way to continue it. But they're gonna address this. I'm confident.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're good about doing the right thing.
They really are. The great people. And look, following just because the job Oliver has done at United Cigar has been incredible.
Absolutely.
What a job! I mean, job he has done this year. So, fantastic job. Yeah.
Also, I just want to say this too. If anyone picks up on just kind of me looking away at times, behind me, I do have the TV on with the NASCAR race that's on right now because it is the playoffs, and my Joe Gibbs guys are 1, 2, and 3 tonight right now. So yeah, I am watching this because it's the playoffs. And I don't care if you don't like NASCAR and you're gonna talk trash.
I love NASCAR. I love auto
I'm,
racing.
I'm not gonna listen to you. But if you like NASCAR, the Joe Gibbs cars are right up front. It's Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr. 1, 2, and 3 as we roll in Richmond. So I am keeping a steady eye on that. For those of you who are listening at home, you wouldn't notice. So kind of, I don't know. Anyway, so I'll throw in something kind of interesting here as a small topic. As we go through our list of things. A lot of people probably know. A lot of people probably notice the memes that I've posted on Facebook. If you follow me on Facebook, if you're friends with me on Facebook, send me a friend request. I'll accept it. But if you already do, you probably saw that I had some memes that I created. They were all the same theme. It was the guy holding the cardboard sign, which I'm sure most of you have seen somewhere. And I made them. It started because of one thing, and then I liked it too much, so I had a couple other ideas and I made some more. But the real reason why I made it was because I, as much as you and a lot of other people who are listening and watching, are probably in a lot of cigar groups on Facebook. And what is the number one thing that we see the most get posted in a group?
Cigars.
Well, no, specifically, like what topic?
Memes.
Yeah.
Yeah, memes. Okay. Yeah.
Well, no, that's not. That's what I did, but I made the meme because of a specific reason. I made it because I honestly just got so sick and tired of just seeing the same picture of the same exact thing, like at least once a day. And it's always the clear top Cohiba box. Hey, I got this from a buddy. Are these real? And it's like, all right. I don't know. I'm not trying to be like a crabby asshole. It's just like, if you smoke cigars enough, people usually know. And if you don't know, like, okay, I get it. But like, if you're in these groups and you're seeing these posts all the time, are you just like not paying attention? I don't know. Cause like, it's like the same picture of the same shit every time. Hey, are these real? And it's always no. For anyone who needs to know, I'm not going to get into a whole Cuban authentication thing right now on the show. I'll give you a couple of tips, but for the most part, it's right off the bat, the clear top Cohiba thing. You see the box with like the 5 and it has the plastic. That's fake. Habanos SA does not manufacture any packaging like that whatsoever. That is not real. That is like absolutely a fake. You see that? It's fake. I don't care how good it looks. It's fake. They don't make that. That's like the biggest thing. And I see that a lot. I know you see it a lot.
Yeah.
And the other big thing is too, when you look at Cuban cigars, if you have a band, and I have Cohibas, I should have grabbed one for demonstration, but whatever. I can't get up now. But a lot of times you'll see, they'll post a picture and you see the bands, clear the band, and you see the Chief logo that Cohiba has, and you'll see the outline is like off centered with the white background, and they're like,
Right.
"Is this real?" And it's like, I mean, that's just common sense. I mean, if the band looks like it was, printed on a laptop, I mean, it's probably not real. If the stuff's like kind of like not all straight, it's not real. Another big giveaway that a lot of people don't know on Cuban cigars is most Cuban cigars have the triple cap on the cigar, and a lot of times when you see a Cuban, if you see a Cohiba and it's got like one or two layers in the cap, it's probably not genuine, even if it looks pretty good. For the most part, the Cubans have that triple cap that they're mostly known for, I would say. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just me just being a grumpy asshole. I don't know. I don't know if you have anything you want to throw in on that one, Coop, but I just feel like it's like the same thing over and over, and it's like, has anyone learned anything yet? Like,
Yeah. I've kind of. Well, I'm not the best at identifying fake Cubans. I'll say that, right? But there are some certain obvious things. The glass top box is the obvious one. I usually try to avoid being the hall monitor in this case, unless I'm
right.
asked directly. Now, if I'm asked directly, I'm going to give it the answer. It's not, but go enjoy your cigars. I mean, they may be good. I mean, I said, go if you're enjoying the cigars, go enjoy the cigars. But you're asking me they're not Cuban. Um, Tending again, I don't participate a lot in the groups. I am members of it, but I gotta be honest, I don't participate as much. But again, I kind of personally, and I'm not trying to judge anyone or you certainly, but I avoid being the hall monitor in
Well,
the
I
room
would
with it.
say too is like to that, like I'll add to that is like a lot of the times it's like just smoke it. I mean, like,
In the end, if
do
you're
you want to
enjoying
know
this,
if it's authentic Cuban? I get that. That's one thing. But at the same time, don't just be like, oh, it's not real. Just smoke it. It might be good. A lot of fake Cuban cigars are either made by the Cuban people outside the factory who steal bands or whatever, and they try to sell their own. So
yep,
in a way, they are Cuban cigars, but they're not like the quality that are actually made in the factory. Sometimes they're like Dominican made cigars that people put counterfeit bands on, or whatever. Like, they're not all necessarily a bad cigar. It just might not be a real Habanos SA made Cuban
right,
cigar. Um, there's some really low quality ones, or really bad fakes that are probably really bad quality cigars. I'm not going to rule that out either. But I mean, I've seen some high quality fakes.
yeah. I
It's
mean,
it's not real, and the band looks like shit, but the cigar don't look half bad. I mean, just
yeah,
smoke it anyway. See how it is. I mean,
yeah. A lot of times, when I'm asked something that's more complicated, I say, contact the developing palettes guys. They're much better at that than I am.
right.
Or just contact someone who knows, because I'm not great at it. I'm going to be honest with you. There's, like I said, there's certain telltale signs I can tell you, for sure. The glass top you mentioned, the cap, and the band and stuff. But there's other ones that are tougher.
When it comes
And
to packaging, when it comes to the bands, when it comes to the cap on the cigar, when it comes
yeah,
to even the wrapper on the cigar, sometimes you can figure it out based on the wrapper, depending on what particular cigar it's trying to be.
yep,
If you know those cigars really well, like whether it's Cohiba, especially like the Bahiques, there's very discerning qualities for Cohiba and
right,
Bahique. And then of course there's the other stuff like Romeos and Partagas and Monte Cristo. Um,
yep,
so I mean there's a lot of things, but um, again, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it's just if you don't know a lot about it, you defer it to someone else. You want to be the hall monitor. I get
yep,
that.
yeah, yeah. I definitely agree with that. With you on that. It's a lot. The one thing I always ask you, usually I'll say buy from a La Casa de Habano or Habano specialist first
Right.
is where you should be going.
Yeah, if a guy runs up to you on the beach in the Bahamas or
Yeah,
Jamaica, it's like, oh man, I got Cubans. They're not real. I don't. I
even
mean,
in Cuba, if they run up to you,
yes, that's very
yes.
true. Even in
So
Cuba, there's fake
even in
Cubans.
yes, so keep that in mind. There are fake Cubans.
You can get a
Fa-
fake Rolex in Switzerland.
yeah, yeah, and some of the fake Cubans are fake. They have Cuban tobacco, and some of them don't. I mean,
Right.
so It's possible that someone in Cuba is using Cuban tobacco. They're getting some hand rolls and they're selling it and putting a band on it as a Monte Cristo or Cohiba. So again, I always say La Casa de Habano is your safest bet going to a tobacconist like that.
Yeah, I mean, I made a couple other memes too. There was one that I made, and it was, and these are more just for fun. I don't know, actually, like,
Right.
and I'm not even, and I'm really not even annoyed about the Cohiba or the cigar thing. I just was like, it was just like a point. I was just like, oh, I gotta like say something.
Yep.
But like, it's mostly out of fun, so don't get too beat up on it. I'm not like seriously coming after anyone too hard. There was another one I made, and it was stop asking if it's mold or plume and just smoke it.
I'm the opposite. You know what?
Look,
I'm not a
is
bit. When
this
I see
mold or plume?
when I'm
like,
plume, and if I have any doubt, yeah, that's another one I'm not good at either. If I have this doubt, I don't do it.
Hey, I've been there too. I mean, I've had some stuff. We had a issue with one of our cabinets, where the unit, big unit inside, it was on like the second shelf, and so we have two of the big cabinets, and then a half cabinet, and then like a couple of box tops for specialty stuff. But the big cabinets, one of them is all shelves all the way down, and the other one, it's the same cabinet, but the only difference is it's like 1, 2, 3, and then there's a block in like the lower half where it's all pull-out drawers, and then there's 2 shelves below. So we had the unit on that second shelf up below the block of all the drawers. Now they're all vented so that it can all go up through the whole cabinet, but there was also something wrong with the unit where it wouldn't shut off even when it reached its ideal humidity, and it wouldn't just maintain, it would just run and run and run. And Coop, you know about this story.
Yep.
And we didn't really pick up on it right away. Because it was an entirely new setup. And in the beginning, I thought, well, it's probably still going through its seasoning process. Then we loaded it and I let it run for a few weeks. And then I started to notice that there was mold, starting to form on the corner up there. And I'm like, well, that's an issue. And I had to rip everything out and clean it and sterilize. And I went through Cigars.
Yep. I remember you had to do that. Yeah.
Some of them were plumy and some of them were just moldy. And thankfully, there was only 1 or 2 cigars that were pretty replaceable that were moldy. And I was like, well, it could have been worse. And I threw those away. But I mean, I have a box in the other cabinet. It's kind of like my Liga shelf. So like all like the number 9s, the T52s, the Unico stuff. I have it all like on one shelf. And I have an empty T52 Corona Dobles box that I keep kind of like my one-off Ligas that I've acquired, like I have like onesies, twosies of, and there's some in there I've had for a while, and they have like some strong plume on them, but they're not mold. And I'll just give them a wipe, just a light brush, and I'll smoke those. It's more when you have that giant, the bigger spores that are really grown in onto the wrapper where it's more of an issue. But that light fluffy plume, I mean, I've always just brushed it off and gone with it. So, but anyway, like I said, I wasn't really like that. I wasn't like pissed about it. I just was kind of like,
right,
this is a talking point, and I just jumped on it. So
sure, I understand it. Yep,
that's all. And I just started to have some fun with it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
I knew you'd get a kick out of it too.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, lighten up, people.
Hey, if you've been in this game long enough, you see these little quirks and stuff, and you just try to have some fun.
Exactly.
So a big news story came through this week. Let's see. CLE, Christian Aroa's company, which also the warehouse where they keep their cigars was broken into and robbed over 75,000 cigars. Now that warehouse houses a lot of the CLE, Aroa First 20, the Asylum, and even some of the Patoro brand cigars that they do some warehousing for them. 75,000 sticks were stolen. The majority of the stuff that was stolen was some various Asylum lines, a couple of CLE stuff, and I think there was one other one. It's eluding me right now. But anyway,
there was some Aroas in there.
Yeah, there was some Aroa. I think the new Aroa
The CBT was in there. I know that.
Yes, that was in there. But 75,000 cigars. And I think they said based off security footage only saw 3 people based on the footage of what they saw. But I mean, that's a lot of cigars to take. And when we had class on the show earlier this week, we brought that up for our McAuliffe news segment for the week. And even he chimed in. He was like, so to put that in perspective, at 75,000 cigars, that is like 3 rollers worth or 3 pairs of rollers work for an entire year that were stolen in one grab.
Wow.
Now,
right,
there's so many parts to this story. And we, as on the show, when we do our news segment, we do the headline and we do a little bit of banter and we kind of move on. But we're really going to get into and dissect this a little bit more here. But there's just so many parts to this. Like, first of all, what do you do with 75,000 stolen cigars? So it's like, depending on who took them, like, where are you keeping them? What are you going to do with them? You know what I mean? Like, so you're going to warehouse these and then like slowly sell them? Or like, are you going to try and sell them to someone else as a bulk on a black market? So what do you do with 75,000 cigars that are hot?
It's always been the $10,000 question with this.
It's like you take that many. What are you doing with them? Now you take a couple of boxes. All right, keep
they
some.
never surface. It seems like these things they just disappear into oblivion.
My guess is, if I had to take an educated guess, let's say, I mean, there's a couple different scenarios, but here's one. Here's a scenario. A very educated guess. We've seen this with automobiles as well, stolen cars. Maybe they go right into a shipping container and they get sent out to Asia or Europe somewhere and they get dealt with over there. And by the time they get over there, like, no one gives a shit. It's just, oh, I know a guy who's got inventory. Okay.
Yep.
Maybe that's what happened. I doubt that someone's sitting on those for themselves just to have. That's a lot of cigars to smoke. I'm not going to smoke 75,000 cigars in my lifetime.
Where are you going to keep them humidified? Yeah.
Where are you going to keep them humidified? Even if you gave some away, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, really, like, what is the most logical solution? And there was some people who commented on it and had some very interesting ideas. I had one person say to me, which I thought this was intriguing. I don't even know if I want to say it on the air because I don't want anyone to think it came from me, but it's not. I heard one person say, as crazy as this may sound, well, what if it's an inside job? And I was
well,
like,
and that has always well, okay, but there's 2 definitions of inside job. Usually it's not necessarily someone who works in the warehouse, but someone who's been in the warehouse and knows the lay of the land. When Casa Cuevas got robbed, I did go to the warehouse and they showed me where they came in and stuff. And if someone went on a tour of that warehouse, they can easily probably feed some information back. I don't think any of these jobs are someone's trying to do it to get insurance money. I mean, that's not the case. No. But I do think it's someone that has prior knowledge of the lay of the land. And certainly, look, I'll say this, no, this Christian's beyond reproach here with this. This is look at the cost just put it into perspective here. You're not doing that. So I'll dismiss that piece. But I think there is this, if you could see, like I said, with the Casa Cuevas, it was very clear you had to know exactly where to drill that hole and stuff like that.
Right. I mean, if you're a good thief and you don't get caught, usually you have a lot of education on what you're taking, where it is, how to get in.
Why these roofs aren't more secured is beyond me, though. That's the part I'm just baffled on.
Well, I thought JRE, also part of the Aroa family. That's Justo and
separate warehouse.
And Julio, yep. Separate warehouse, separate set. They also got robbed. I think it was last year, wasn't it?
Thanksgiving. And I could tell you when I went to see Justo back in May, they have like some really crazy motion detectors to prevent that. Like they have one of the most sophisticated motion detectors in there now. I don't think they'll get robbed again. That's what I'll say.
And then the Casa Cuevas robbery that was also somewhat recent. When was that? Was that last year as well?
Casa Cuevas was actually 2019.
So it was 2 years ago.
Yep.
So I mean, within the last 2 years, I mean, CLE's been hit, JRE's been hit, Casa Cuevas has been hit. I feel like there's been one other big one that is eluding me. I thought there was another one. But yeah, I mean,
There was Bugatti got hit. Bugatti
got hit. I did
Yeah.
hear about that one. You're right.
Yeah.
Um,
And Christian's been hit before. It's not the first time. He got hit a
right.
few years ago. Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting. It really is. It's such mass cigar heist from these manufacturers' warehouses has been interesting to say the least. I
Yeah.
mean,
I'll tell you where I was disappointed with CLE. Did
Okay.
you get a media release on this?
No.
I didn't get one, and neither did anyone in the media.
Really?
But every retailer got it. And I know CLE has a media list. So my question is, why wasn't this sent to the media? That's a pretty big oversight. You want to get as much out there as possible with this.
Did Charlie Minato get one?
No, I mean, let me tell you, I found out about it after a retailer got it, and I didn't print it. At that point, it was because at that point, most of the news was already out there when the retailer finally shared it with me. So, I mean, it's time and money on my end to do that. And then that list of the cigars came out later in the week. Look, there's a point where I had to just make a decision on this right now, and to put out a story that's not going to get a lot of hits at this point. That should have been sent to the media immediately, in my opinion. It's not me being sour grapes. It's just, again, priorities start to take over here, and I only have so many hours a day.
Yeah, wasn't it a Fuente container got stolen or lost?
Fuente had a whole container gets. Yep.
Yeah, Fuente got a whole container get stolen. So someone got a whole.
But the important thing is, Christian went out. He put a video out there and everything on it too. So it's not like he didn't, But again, I didn't know about that video until days later. I just started hearing about this. Here was the other interesting thing. I'm going to say how this was reported. Okay, so and Charlie's on top of stuff, right? But they put the Patoro story out first before the CLE story, and which I thought was interesting, right?
Right.
Now, Patoro's in there because CLE years ago used to distribute them. And then Patoro started going with the UPS Direct program out of the Reyes factory because they make their cigars in the Dominican. And it made more sense for them to kind of work with the Reyes thing. But like I said, I think Christians, they have a good relationship from what I understand, and saying, hey, if you need to store stuff, hey, I got the space to do it. So that's why the Patoro stuff was in there. But I thought it was interesting that they reported the Patoro story first, then the CLE story. Then they went back to the Patoro story and said it was the same robbery.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the list in front of me of what cigars were stolen so we can read that off here. Just give me one moment. I should have that right here. The list was Asylum 8, Asylum 13, Asylum Insidious, Asylum, how do you say this? Nyctophilia.
Good cigar, by the way.
I don't think I've had that one, actually.
Maduro, it's a good cigar. Yeah.
I've had all the others except for that one. CLE, Connecticut, Corojo, and Habano. Aroa CBT, the Lobotomy, the Medulla, and the Shizo were all.
So the Lobotomy is a big catalog brand one. That's not, that's a big loss for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As well as some of Patoro's inventory, as well as we mentioned. So, it's a good size heist.
So,
I mean, but again, it's like, where are they going? I mean, they have to be, whoever took it. I'm going with. They got it in a container and they sent it out of the country. That's the only thing I can think of. Unless they're unboxing and unbanding all those cigars and then, rebanding them and selling them as something else. I mean, I don't. And maybe it's a combination of both. I don't know. What do you do with 75,000 cigars?
Yeah. No. It's never been but I think these things. The majority of them, like you said, I think they get them out of there real fast. They probably find someone to sell them to who's going to take them overseas.
Absolutely.
So hey, I got this deal on cigars, and then they take it overseas, and it's done. So I think it's moved quickly there. How a Fuente container disappears, that's one of the unsolved mysteries. So but it happened obviously. So
Yeah, you also wonder, was it full of like Hemingway and Chateau Fuente, or was it full of like Opus
I don't.
X?
Yeah, I mean
Or
that could be a little different story. I think there was a lot of Opus X in there, from what I remember.
yeah, I I,
Yeah, that one.
I I think the
See,
same. Yeah,
I think Fuente's a little different. Actually, Opus X, getting that on, that could be something that that's got a prize on it. Nothing against the CLE stuff, but well, Aroa CBT is a really good cigar. It's still not as like holy grail as Opus X is what I'm getting at.
yeah. I can see where maybe if someone stole it, there's a high secondary market to flip it, sell it, even if you do
Yeah.
it slowly. I mean, I know
Look,
there's
they're not going back and unbanding these cigars in their garage. That's what I'm kind of getting at. They
yeah,
get rid of
no,
them quick. They want to get rid of these things as quick as possible, is my guess.
yeah. It could be as simple as someone's already looking for something. They
Yeah.
know they get someone. Oh, excuse me. They
Yeah.
know they have someone they're gonna hit. They already have a plan for where they're going and what they're doing with it and all
Yep.
that. Um, and it kind of just goes from there. And they get it, they send it out. But nonetheless, it's still interesting. It's very interesting as to kind of how this unfolded and then where it goes from there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. One thing about Casa Cuevas, back to this media thing again. When they got robbed, the media knew about it like right away. The retailers knew about it right away. And by the afternoon, the local news station was down there getting this on the local news. So I don't know. I think they could have done a better job at publicizing this. Is what I'm getting. I guarantee if they called a local station, they would have came down on this. So,
Absolutely,
and I think,
absolutely.
especially if there's a bigger story with this that's brewing, call the same reporter that did the Casa Cuevas thing, maybe, and kind of put them on it. Maybe they do some investigative reporting in the area or something. So, I just think, maybe, again, I feel horrible they're robbed and everything. I hope, terrible inventories lost, terrible when these things happen. But there's you want to really spread the word as much as possible.
Well, as if there wasn't already enough of a cigar shortage, an inventory for retailers.
Yeah.
You have 75,000 cigars you got in the warehouse. You're ready
Yep.
to ship out to retailers who've been waiting for that inventory. Then it's gone. It's lost time. It's lost money. And people are already struggling to keep up with inventory as it is. And now you get that much stolen.
Yep.
I mean, I remember there was an incident. I think I can talk about this on the air now. There was an incident that happened recently, much smaller scale, but so our friend Jonathan Carney, executive vice president of sales for La Flor Dominicana, is a very good friend of both of ours, and he recently was doing an event in Colorado, and he had a whole shipment of cigars for an event shipped to his hotel. So that way, when he arrived, they would be there or whatever. He didn't have to travel with them. And so when he arrived at said hotel, he was told that the cigars were missing. And that it was, at the time, the mentality was, oh, these were probably stolen because the hotel had no idea where they went. Apparently, they had received them and then they had disappeared. And it wasn't until I want to say it was after he already did the event and left, he got a call saying that they had been found in housekeeping or something like that. And I just remember it being like that whole story just seems so peculiar. It's almost like they went missing and kind of word got out, and maybe someone was starting to kind of be like, oh, never mind. And then they were found sitting somewhere like in the back of the hotel somewhere, like, oh yeah, wow, what a coincidence, And the box, I think the box had been opened too. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong, so don't get upset,
All right.
John, if you hear. But I think the box was open too, so it's like people knew what was inside, and so I don't know. I mean, people have some weird
Yeah.
ways about them. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's definitely something that happens from time to time. Another point that came up this week that I thought was really interesting was another celebrity is getting into the game of having a cigar made for themselves. This time, it's none other than Ari Gold himself, Mr. Jeremy Piven,
Yep.
has inked a deal with Illusion to have I believe it's called the Piv, made,
Yep.
and that will be debuting, I want to say, beginning of next year. I can't remember exactly.
No, actually, it's debuting in October.
Oh, it's coming out now. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, it's coming out.
So that'll be interesting. October is going to be a fun debut
Yep.
month. You got
Yep.
Ferry Otego. You got this new Jeremy Piven cigar. Cool. What's your take on, like, we've seen the Karl Malone come out. What's your take on, like, these celebrities just kind of getting these cigars out there, just almost like it's just another thing they can just add to their portfolio, but they're not really part of the cigar game. It's more like, well, I'll have a cigar made for me, and then it's like, oh, hey.
First of all, this was the worst kept secret in the cigar industry, right? Because
Yeah.
because retailers had this up on their sites already, right? So, but that aside, so I had the opportunity to interview Armand Desante, back in May.
Yes,
So
very good
Armand,
interview.
thank you. And we talked about this question with Armand. And look, Armand had a great cigar made for him by Victor Vitale. He did. That cigar is fantastic. But the cigar had no distribution. That's been the problem with a lot of these celebrities. If they don't have the distribution, they tend to go south very quickly, right? So, for example, like Gary Sheffield and Ray Lewis had the distribution through Rocky, right? Those did very, very well. I'm not sure what's going on with the Karl Malone distribution. I know it's available through Miami, but something's off with that, right? I don't see that store. I don't see that cigar a lot, right? So I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if there's, from what I understand, Miami still distributes it, but something's off with that. So my thing is, yes, they can get a good cigar, and the key thing is going to be distribution with that. The cigar that look, the Piven cigar looks really good. It's going to be using Corojo 2012 on the binder, right? Which this is what Aganorsa and Illusione. It's through Illusione. Illusione makes their cigars and sources their tobacco through Aganorsa. Right? There's not a lot of Corojo 2012 out there, so there's something. I want to smoke this cigar. Don't get me wrong, but nothing to do with because it's Jeremy Piven. But that's my thoughts. I mean, my thoughts on this is if they don't have the distribution with these cigars, it could be the best cigar in the world, and it's gonna fail. Illusione's ramped up their distribution in the last couple of years, for sure. I think they've really been focusing on that. So I think there's a good chance for success with it.
Also, I think you got to talk about promotion, right? Jeremy Piven. Do you see Jeremy Piven going to cigar shops promoting this brand?
No, but typically that's not. I mean, I don't. Armand did a little bit of it. They did have Armand at some shops. I think Jeremy will be at maybe some very select lounges to do it. The event. Right. So Grand Havana Room in New York, LA. I think it'll be those. You'll see like 3 or 4 of those. I don't see them going to like my local Jeremy Piven going to my local shop promoting this cigar. Though. I don't.
Right
now, I didn't even see Jeremy Piven promoting the cigar on his Facebook page. So, that's. But I'm sure he doesn't run his Facebook page either. So
also true.
Look, I'm a huge Ari Gold fan too. I mean, one of the great characters in television history, in my opinion.
Oh. So no question.
Yeah. So I think there will be some interest. I don't think Jeremy Piven is Armand Desante though either.
No, he's not.
I mean, there's a big difference, right? But at the same time, Illusione had much better distribution than Victor Vitale had. Right. So you look at it like that.
Yeah, I always just find it interesting, when you see that stuff. And it's like, for example, look at the liquor industry, right? There's so many celebrities that have like a vodka, or now you're seeing, people getting into bourbon, like Metallica's got a bourbon, Scottie Pippen's got a bourbon.
Right.
I mean, look at all the rappers are in like cognac and vodka and champagne, and like Jay-Z owns half an Ace of Spades, and like 50 Cent's got a cognac now, and like Diddy's in vodka, and and it's like it's so there's so many celebrities that are like in the liquor game, and there's not quite as many in the cigar business. But there's a good
It,
amount. There's a
it's
good
been
amount.
the track record's been pretty bad though.
Yeah.
It's been a pretty bad track record. I'm going back to when the Mario Andretti cigar came out. One of the worst cigars I ever smoked, by the way. So but they didn't. They went with some little company, Pacific Cigar. I remember. They weren't going to be able to move that cigar. Ditka used to have before he went to Camacho. Ditka had a line and it was out of Illinois and it didn't do much. I can tell you that it didn't have the distribution.
Right.
So I really think that is I think anyone can give someone a really good cigar, but now getting that in the market, that's a challenge. I think liquor's a little different story though, because I think a lot of these companies that are doing it, they have much stronger distribution. It's harder to get distribution in the liquor business, but the ones who have it, and they do
Right.
well with it.
I think it's also it could be argued. We can, and I'll open up this floor for conversation.
Yeah.
I think the liquor sales probably outweigh cigar sales
Very much.
because there's much more people who drink than people who smoke.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a given. So there's a much bigger market for it too. Not that I was even trying to compare it, just just for the sake of like things like that
Yeah.
that celebrities usually get their hand into. Liquor is a big one. I mean, obviously there's clothing and all this other
Yep.
stuff, but like the most comparable to our industry would be like the liquor industry. So, but seeing more and more celebrities starting to get into the cigar industry the last couple of years, I mean, and there's a few who, and maybe they have, and I just don't know. But there's a few who I'm surprised don't. Like, I'm surprised. I'm surprised. Jordan, Michael Jordan, didn't have something made for himself. I know we love smoke and all sorts of other stuff that's already existing, but like being the businessman that he is,
Is it big
surprised he.
enough for him though? Is a question.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I guess
Is
that's
it?
a good way to look at it too. You look at people like Schwarzenegger and Stallone and big, big celebrity cigar smokers. I mean, I don't think I think those guys probably smoke just as much as we do, if not more. I mean, especially Arnold. I think Arnold smokes more than anyone. Um, but yeah, I just thought it was a very interesting topic. Little thing going on there.
Let me add on to that. Name me a really good celebrity cigar that has had some longevity in the marketplace.
That's a good point too.
The closest I can think of was the Ditka stuff with Camacho. And that was mostly limited releases they were doing.
And I very, very faintly remember that.
Yeah, the Ditka cigars came out around 2013. It's like 2006. He had a 3 or 4 year contract with them.
Right.
I mean, they're the ones. I mean, look, the Ray Lewis and Gary Sheffields, I just don't see them a lot. I don't see the David Ortiz ones a lot. Obviously,
Oh yeah, David Ortiz. There's another one. I completely forgot about that.
yeah, good. I mean, again, I think though David Ortiz, I think they've been slow with that one. I think they're being very smart how they're pushing that cigar out. They're not trying to make a big splash early on. I think they've targeted markets. So
yeah, they're not
I
trying
think
to
that's
get too ahead of themselves. They're taking it slow and steady,
yeah.
and they've done a good job with that.
Yeah, Ram and Kevin know what they're doing with that one. I think that's the one I would watch, but I think they're just not trying. Like you said, I think they're just being very smart about what they're doing. It'll be interesting because Armand's supposed to be coming back with a cigar with Plasencia. And if they go through Plasencia, who's got a pretty good distribution team now, they have a good sales team. I think that's a good move for him.
Right.
As well. So, but the answer is there's not a lot of these that have just been like smash hits that have been really good cigars. I mean, the track record's there.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where it doesn't. There's so many different reasons why it doesn't get enough legs for longevity. Like you bring up the longevity, and I think that's really really important. I mean, the David Ortiz one I forgot about. That one actually they've been doing good with. I've seen it popping up more and more and more shops. They've done some line extensions to it already. It's going in the right. It's a little slow.
It's slow, but I think that's a deliberate plan. And I think don't forget that El Artista is a newer brand as well.
Yes.
I mean, they've been making stuff for a long time, but they're getting into the brand distribution, and that takes a while to do.
It does. I mean, even just for themselves, and let
Yeah.
alone you bring it on like
Yeah.
this celebrity line
Yep.
that you got going on too. Very good cigar too. I mean, I still have like half a box, as well as a couple of samples from some of the newer sizes that I got at the trade show, and then on top of that, I do have one of the bats that came in the.
Nice. Nice.
I have it. It's been sitting in there for a while. I'm saving it for the right moment.
Yeah. Matt, let me tell you, the year at the trade show, David was there. The line was around the corner for him
Oh,
at the trade show.
I
Yeah.
believe that. Yeah, yeah.
Yep. It was crazy.
That was what 2019,
No, it was, I think, 18.
18.
It was Bear's first show. That's why.
Yeah.
And like Bear, we can't take we can't take 2 hours to wait online for David Ortiz. I'm sorry. I had to break his heart on that one. I'm like, we just can't.
I thought I heard that Carl Malone was at a trade show.
He was at the
Was
he
that
was at
TPE?
he was at TPE and he was at PCA. I mean IPCPR twice. I interviewed Carl Malone at the 2020 TPE. So there's an interview out there I did with him.
Interesting.
Yeah, great guy. They were very, very. I mean, I'm just surprised. That's his thing. They seem like they're doing all the right things.
Yeah.
The cigar, I like the cigar. I think they had a distribution plan. I haven't seen that cigar move for whatever reason, and so something that one baffles me a bit because it seemed like this was a company that understood everything, and Carl understood everything with this. So maybe it's a slow work in progress too. Is the only way I could think of.
Yeah. While we're kind of on a related topic, talking about Illusione, they announced this. They also this week they announced that they're going to be taking on Carolina Blue.
Yeah,
Which I know we've talked about on the Spare Notes show before.
Yeah.
I've had some thoughts on that company. I'm not going to bring it up again and get in and waste any of my airtime with it. But earlier this year they took on Amendola, which I love those
Yep.
guys. Those guys are
Yep.
great.
Oh, they're great guys. And the cigars are good too.
Yeah, they're very, very good.
Yep.
So they're going in the right direction. I mean, they're growing. They're growing. They're bringing some people in.
Cavalier Geneva is the other one.
Yeah.
I think they have the facilities to help these companies. I think these have been good moves for them. It seems like I said, Dion's been focusing a lot on distribution the last 5 years. He's made a lot of internal changes, and Brian Matola's in there now, kind of doing a lot of the operations for him. So I think certainly this is a good thing for him and the companies coming in there. I think working with Dion it's got to be nothing but positive in Illusione. I can't see any negatives. I haven't heard anyone complain about it either. So,
there's been I feel like distribution. And it's funny we talk about that topic, right? There's been a lot of companies who are getting more into distribution, getting bigger, getting better with it. You're seeing a lot more, at least from my perspective. I feel like you're seeing more cigar brokers or independent cigar brokers now, and it's a lot less of the companies themselves putting their reps on the road. They've got smaller teams now. There's these brokers out there pushing it for them. Do you think that the sales game, both in distribution and representation and on all levels of it, do you think that we're seeing a major change here in the way that the cigar industry is being run?
yeah, I think we are. I think brokers have been around forever.
They have, but I feel like maybe it's just me, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more of it going towards brokerages. As of lately.
Here's what I'm seeing in the Southeast. Like brands are switching brokers left and right, like hot potatoes. They're not staying very long with these like brokers. And it's very few. I mean, there's a few super brokers out there, but there's very few taking brand X and taking it to the next level. And the idea is take it to the next level to a point where they want to bring the distribution in-house, right? I'm just not seeing a lot of that anymore. It seems like the brands are just like hot potatoes. They're floating all around there. And like I said, some brokers are great brokers and some of them are not. But I think what's happened is obviously taking on payroll in this time, companies are being That's why I think there's been a shift. I think companies are looking at this closely right now. But there's certain companies that have looked at it and they say broker model doesn't work for us. I mean, look at McAuliffe. I think is a good example. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that it didn't work for them, and I think now we're seeing what the tightness and the job that Andy Yaffe is doing with that team with the sales force. But certainly they can take on that. They're a company that has the resources to take on that.
I like how you bring up McAuliffe because McAuliffe's a company who, and this is not just because Dan's watching. This is
Yeah, I know Dan's watching there, but
it
I'm
is
saying
it is what it is. And I'm gonna give them some small tough love too. Just to make it honest.
yeah,
They have done a really good job. They've done a really good job with their sales. Not only like their boots on the ground in the shops and all that, and getting the cigars there and getting with people. And Kyle Busch takes the lead. Yeah, boy. That's right, Kyle Busch out front. Listen, if you hate Kyle Busch, you just suck it because
I'm a
it's
Kurt Busch guy, but I don't hate Kyle.
it's like I meant to the general public, but yeah. For me in my book, it's the Earnhardts. I've always had a very special place in my heart. Growing up, that's what my grandparents watched. They were Earnhardt family. Kyle, then Kurt, then anyone at Joe Gibbs Racing, and then from there, probably Kevin Harvick. I don't like the Penske guys at all. I hate that team with a passion, especially Brad Keselowski. I can't stand him. Anyway, getting back to this. Yeah, no, I mean, they've done a really good job. They have also with their social media and their online presence and connecting with people and not even the consumers, the way they got the ambassador program, the Facebook group, and they do
They
their
got they're on
video
all cylinders.
content.
Yep.
They are firing on all cylinders. They've done a really great job. Last year, obviously the biggest news with them was they pulled out of a couple of retailers and like Cigars International and whatnot. And they're focusing more on their regular brick and mortar retail accounts. They want to be exclusive to them. I think that was a good move for them. They've gotten away from brokerages and they've got their own strong sales force. That's been good for them. They've been very involved in a lot of events. That's been good for them. They didn't go to the trade shows, although again, we know why they didn't go. They didn't go for some very solid business reasons.
Totally.
That's totally respectful as well.
Yep.
Smart move. Conserve that money for bigger and better things. I would say, and I've never said this publicly, but I'm going to, because I just and I mean this with with some strong tough love criticism. I've always just kind of felt looking at the McAuliffe profile, they have a lot of good stuff. Arguably the best cigar they make right now is actually I have one right with me, McAuliffe. It's in my repertoire for tonight. Arguably, like McAuliffe is the best cigar they have. It's very flavorful, very well made. Their whole legacy of the Leyenda is fantastic. The Magdalia is fantastic. The Reserva that Nicole and I smoked that was a gift from McAuliffe from the 5 count box. Those are fantastic. I've always felt though that for a smaller company they have a lot of SKUs, and it's concerning for me just as they're trying to grow to have so many. And I don't know. How do you feel that impacts their position where they are right now?
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about this when Dan was on the show a couple weeks ago. You got to remember when they came out, the time they launched this company was 2016-17 timeframe.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just no one knew what the FDA was going to bring to the table.
Okay.
So people wanted to get as much into the market as possible. But look at what they're doing now. They're being very controlled with their growth. And I think they don't feel pressure to come out with a new brand. So they're focusing on some of their key brands. They're doing some key extensions, like some Toro sizes where they're adding. And I think they're being very smart. And they are addressing that issue. There's no question about it, but you can't, and I think it's, I don't think the answer is to pull the SKUs either. So I think I think they're doing a good job executing on that, but that's going to take time. That was unfortunately something and that, they had little, like FDA was just, I don't know how much you were following the industry in 2017. I mean, people were just putting stuff out there.
Well,
There was
right, because the mentality was we got to get it out there now.
there was this concept called stealth releases that were being released, where people were just throwing brands out and just getting them into a store for the sake of saying they had a brand on the market. McAuliffe didn't do that.
No,
McAuliffe literally launched these brands and supported these brands, and I give them so much credit for not taking the stealth cigar approach, and going with this route. So I think it's going to take some time. Like I said, I'd love to see a new McAuliffe line come out at some point, but I think the health of the company right now, the approach they're taking is the right approach. It's just going to take a little time. But you're right; they have a lot of SKUs. There's no question about it.
yeah, I mean they have, and they kind of have two core divisions within their lineup too. I mean they have the Legacy collection
Yep.
with all of their um the
Yeah.
Leyendas, the McDowell, and then they have the whole Bold collection, which is really a whole separate area, which is made completely separately.
Yep.
With all the Bold line that they have, and it always to me just kind of seemed like, wow, there's a lot going on here. Wouldn't that be a little bit hard to grow a small company having maybe too much to offer? But they're very structured with how they're doing it.
They
I'll give them that too. There's brands out there that they launch with 6 or 7 lines right out the gate, and it's like, what are you doing? Like you gotta start with a smaller and kind of build your reputation on that. You can't just come out guns blazing.
yeah. I mean, they had a little more resources where they were able to do that, obviously. But I will say this: if there's a company that's operationally sound, look, McAuliffe's one, and a lot of companies should take a look at what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean and their staff too. I mean, the people that have worked with them have like look at Dan for example. I mean, Dan spent 20 years working at Microsoft. The McAuliffe family is in other major industries.
Yep.
The biggest thing that they do, and a lot of people even realize is, their day to day is working in the silicone industry, and that's what they do. And Amanda and Dan and all they work on that. They work in that department too for McAuliffe. And then the Cigars is like a whole separate company that they run. So, I mean, these people know what they're doing. Business wise, they get some strong business sense about them. I absolutely give them that. They know what they're doing in terms of putting that kind of system together. So I get that too. And I've had this conversation with people before. It's like it's interesting when you look at cigars too, because and even Klaas Kellner even kind of touched on this in a certain way about like, I mean, you have people who are farmers and they grow tobacco and they roll tobacco, and then going to sell the cigars and do sales and all that is very different. And I'm trying to remember how he put this, but I think he almost put it as he noticed that it's better when people kind of go from growing and rolling to now getting into like the sales and the corporate part of it, versus when you're like corporate and you just sell and then you're like, let's get into growing our stuff. I remember we had a small discussion on this week's show kind of about how it goes both ways. And it's usually better when a company grows from the beginning up because they have that appreciation for the entire process and they know, what it takes just to get it to the market and then go from there versus like, how to sell it. And then you try to go into like the beginning process and you have to kind of relearn this whole other part of the industry you have really no experience in, which is arguably more challenging than the sales side of the industry. Just getting into growing tobacco and caring for it and rolling it and blending and the quality control that they go through and the blend sampling that they do as the cigars are being rolled and the tobacco sampling and all that. I mean, that's pretty involved, and you really got to know. You really got to know tobacco to do that. You can't just be like, well, I'm a good salesman. A good salesman can sell anything, but you got to know tobacco. I just thought that was worth mentioning too. So, I mean, McAuliffe being where they are and doing as good as they are, it's not easy to do either. I want to say that it's not
Yeah.
easy to do. They've done a very good job of it.
Yeah, they really have. I mean, and you look at how the McAuliffe A became a hit for them, and the job that Andy and his team did, with the pre-release of that. I just thought it was the to be named. It was, I mean, it executed so well, and it's such a popular cigar. People go back to that cigar. So, They did a great job with that. Involving the ambassadors. Just they have a really good supply chain. It seems like from
They
going
really
through
get it
everything.
at all angles. I mean, they have
Yeah, yeah,
they got the customer base directly. They got
yep,
the ambassador program.
yep.
They got that tasting passport program.
They,
Really
yeah,
ties them in. So they get the consumers engaged.
they do.
They're focusing more on their partnerships with their retailers that they do business with.
Yep.
They have a really good connection with their factory in Nicaragua where most of their stuff is made. They got it all on all cylinders. And I'll be honest with you, McAuliffe wasn't even on the notes for tonight. We just kind of got here,
We kind of just went through that. Yeah,
but that's what happens. And it's a good topic to talk.
we went from celebrity cigars. Yeah, but yeah to that. Yeah.
Another one that has been, I mean, well, maybe not another, but there's a whole collection of smaller brands that are on the rise right now. We've seen, through boutique brands. I think boutique brands, well, I mean, and again, we kind of get into the discussion. Well, what is a boutique brand and what qualifies and all that, and how big are we talking about? When you talk about like real small brands, a brand like Nova, Nova Cigars, good brand, good cigars. Um, we've done business with them in the past at Smoking Tobacco. Great people over there. They're a small brand, but they're growing.
Yeah.
Now another one is our friend Gerard over at Jake Wyatt Cigars. They've been doing a really good job. A real small brand, but he's getting his name out there. He's growing it slow.
They got some really good product too.
Oh, he
They
does.
really, yeah,
And I
yeah,
just and I love how and Gerard's also, he owns MotorCigar.com. So I mean, he is a retailer. He knows retail. He knows sales. He knows that end of it. How he's
yep,
in manufacturing, and he's got his own stuff, and he's got his own tobacco that he's working with.
yep.
And he was on
Um,
the show recently, talking about Jake Wyatt, and it's interesting. We talked about, he's got some cigars that are some really funky, cool looking cigars, and you look at it and you're like, wow, this looks like some of the like rare stuff that I've picked up, and it's a cigar it's pretty good, and it's much more affordable and easier to find. And I love how he talked about like the strategy going into that was like, yeah, well, like you look at, he's got some cigars that look like the BBMFs from Arturo Fuente, and he's got some other stuff that looks like kind of the stuff that like John's making with LFD with their Solomon Unico line, and there's some real intricate stuff on the shapes and the multi wrappers that they use and the patterns and designs um and his biggest thing was like, yeah, well, I want it to be eye catching, and I want it to look like those ultra rare, ultra premium cigars that are hard to find but are accessible. Because he's like, what is something that people do with cool cigars? They take pictures of it and they put it on social media. And he's like, why don't we, like, in a sense, it was like, why don't we make it easier for people to post stuff like that and make more cigars, get them in their hands, and
yep.
then it turned into this marketing thing with the whole creation of the cigar, and it's like, wow, that's brilliant. Kind of thinking outside the box a little bit. So I mean, he's
But
done a good job of really trying to think differently to get his brand out there.
yeah,
And you're
but
seeing a lot of
they
these.
gotta beef up the distribution.
Oh
There's
yeah,
no,
they do. They
yeah,
definitely do.
yeah.
And
That's
I
a
think
big,
and
he's got the product. There's no question about it.
I think he will with time. I think
Yeah,
he will.
yeah,
I think he will with time, and it's nice to see some of these smaller brands, really hitting the ground, really growing on themselves, and competing for shelf space with these big names.
yep.
I mean, I mean, you look behind each of us. We got big names behind us. Big companies. They're pushing a lot of cigars, but there's a lot of small people um,
Hmm.
out there who are surviving and doing very well.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
Um, the Tatuaje Monster Mash hitting stores just in
Yep.
time for the fall.
Yep.
Really cool stuff. Now, that's interesting because it features one of every previous Monster Series release that Pete has done, with the addition of a new one for this year,
Creature.
which is the creature from the swamp. Um, and that is the only thing that's different about it. And Coop, correct me if I'm wrong, is that while they're all existing Monster releases, They all are a different size. They're shorter, aren't they?
They're shorter, but they're the same width, the same
Yeah,
ring gauge.
the same ring gauge, but they're shorter cigars.
Yeah.
And it's a really cool concept. And and Pete's done, and he's another one who's. I mean, he's more larger scale now, but I mean, he's another one of those brands that's just really done a great job with like his marketing and his technique of just getting his. He does a lot of small releases and micro releases, store exclusives, and well, he's not really doing as many store exclusives anymore. I know he's kind of gotten away from that, but he's still doing a lot of small batch stuff. Um,
Yeah.
what's your what's and well, at the show, we were at the show. We saw the Monster Mash sample set at the show, but we also saw, and we've talked about this before in other episodes. We saw the Advent calendar that he's coming out with, as a
Yep.
couple other people. And
Yep.
so that's another thing. So, I mean, what's your thought on like these companies just kind of working with these? There's definitely a different approach to the marketing that these manufacturers are going with nowadays. It's not just, hey, we're coming out with this and this is the box and whatever. There's a lot more limited. I mean, look at Ferio Tego. Without trying to get too much into that again. With Michael's release of Ferio Tego, it's still being kind of sold as a limited production. Everything's being sold as limited production. And I guess to reopen this conversation, do you think that there's too many of those still, or do you think that this is more of just a marketing thing?
I think the Furrier Tego and the Pete thing are different, right? So, what Pete, what his strategy seemed like at the trade show, is he didn't really introduce a new brand, but he kind of found ways to kind of extend or reinvigorate a lot of his tried and true stuff, right? The T110s even more something that were previously released as store exclusives.
Right.
But I thought the Monster series, I thought the time was right for another sampler. It had been a few years. I'm excited about this sampler more than any other sampler that he's released, because these are just basically shorter versions of the original Monsters. And so it's the same ring gauge. The Pudgies, I forget what the deal was with them. They were same width but different same ring gauge with different. The Pudgies was similar in that mode. I want to say the skinnies were unique, right? Because the skinnies were, every cigar was the same size. So you had the petite Lanceros, the Cazadores, and the full Lanceros, but every Monster was the same size there. So they were kind of a little different. I wasn't too excited about Lanceros or Cazadores either. This one's got me excited right now.
Yeah.
So okay, the Pudgies were the same. They were the same height. They were the same length as the littles, but the ring gauge was the same. So Pudgies was in a similar boat as well, but they were just the size of the little Monsters.
Right.
I know I'm screwing that up, right? But the point I was going to make was
I'm following what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and don't forget, Pete's got a Monster coming out in October, which is the Frank re-release. Well, no, the Frank re-release.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So that's coming out as well. So I thought this was a good move. I think it was time to kind of come out with another Monster sampler. So I think that was good. Ferio Tego's taking a different approach. They're coming out with something to basically attract themselves to retailers who are going to make an investment in them. So, I think that's more about using that to generate a lot more core business with the Nat Sherman stuff.
Do you think they're trying to do you think they're trying to like chum the waters, so to speak, with that to try to get attention for other things?
Well, I think it's going to give them some attention because it gives them something what's new. But I don't know what the buying model is. But I imagine that to get those cigars, you're going to have to be a select retailer and you're going to have to invest in the former Nat Sherman brands. I mean, I wouldn't think about it any other way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we got into that on I think on the last episode. The whole
Yeah. So,
Ferio
so I
Tego
think
thing.
yeah. I mean, both of these are not cases where people are just throwing something at the wall and putting a band on it. They're different models, but they're the ones that they're limited that that I'm excited about, more excited about.
Yeah, it's to me, last year was an interesting year because there was just so many things going on, and I think everyone was just trying to keep their head above water.
Yeah.
keep the boat afloat. And then I think it started that way. Then it turned into, hey, we have plenty to survive on. We just gotta keep up. It kind of went from like, oh shit, what's gonna happen to like, hey, well, this is not what we thought.
Yep. Yep.
Now we don't have enough cigars to sell. So this year, going into this year, I feel it's gonna be much different.
Yeah.
And I'm excited because there's a lot of there. I feel like the end of this year, there's gonna be a lot of releases, a lot of special projects, a lot of new stuff, a lot of cool stuff. There's going to be a lot to cover um, this year, and so far it's been good stuff. It's been interesting stuff. Even Abe at Smoke Inn. I mean, the stuff he's
Yeah.
doing, on a retailer level. The retailers are really, up in their game, and it's gonna be a busy holiday season. That's for damn
Yeah.
sure.
Exactly.
Um, Now, getting in towards the end of the year, this is kind of an interesting topic. You like to talk about, peeling back the curtain. Well, let's talk a little bit about. We're in September now, and I like to do a little tease of what's to come for the end of the year. I don't know if I brought this up with you on the air. If I already did, I'm sorry, but I feel like if I did, we didn't really get too in depth with it because I would have remembered. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just blanking. We're talking about award season coming up and
Hmm.
awards coming out, and we're going to be doing awards this year. You've been doing awards, cigar of the year, factory of the year. Who do you like right now? Who's a serious contender to take some awards right now, going into that last quarter of the year?
We talked a little about it, right? So I think right now, I'll start with like companies.
Okay.
And Cigar Coop, it's going to be a panel on the Coop team deciding this, but the two companies that probably I'm the highest on right now are Rocky Patel and JRE. I think they have had fantastic years. Um, and I'll tell you something. There's a few Rocky Patel cigars that are in contention for a very high spot. The Quarter Century and the Winter Collection 2020. So they're in very big contention. Now there you may say they're 2020 releases, but that's the way the timetable is a little different on Coop. So it's a 2-year window of anything released before the trade show. So
Which is a very similar model to how we're going to be running as
yeah.
well.
So what I don't want is I don't want a cigar coming out November 15th that suddenly goes to the top of the list because you don't know what that cigar. And I've talked about this on several shows. You just don't want that cigar to be it really doesn't have time to kind of acclimate. In fact, chances are there's only going to be to get a second shipment. The retailer's not even going to get a second shipment on that cigar, right?
Right.
So the idea is to try to have cigars that have been on the shelf and have been performing consistently throughout the year. So I think those, but like I said, I think those companies are ones that I'm looking at for votes. There's a few other cigars that are in contention. Adventura's Queen's Pearl is definitely a cigar up there. Perdomo Firecracker. Don't sleep on that one. Probably the best firecracker that's come out, in my opinion.
And it was just released again
Just
last month.
re-released again. Yep. So certainly that is something that I would look at and I'd say, watch out for that. It's not a shop exclusive, right? Because they do distribute that through United right now. In there, the Espinosa La Bamba Warhead scored really well with us. Rockefeller's Art of Magic scored really well. So there's not a lot of cigars that I had over 91 this year. I'm just looking at my list here. I've had only 9 cigars at 92. So, and there's a lot. There's over 100 on the list so far. So,
Wow.
this has not been a great year for cigars by any means. This has been a very weak year.
All right, so let's rip that conversation open.
Yeah.
Why, in your opinion?
Um.
You all right?
Okay. So yeah,
I just watched it. I just watched.
Yeah. You don't know what I just said. I do think the quality has been suffering. Now, a couple of years ago, I did get much more stringent on the review on the scoring, but I haven't made any scoring changes this year. So I do believe there's just not as much good product coming out in the last 2 years. Some, there's construction problems in cases. It's just blends aren't that good. A lot of ho hum stuff. So I just think there has been a decrease in quality right now. Overall, you can't have every year be the best year. There's never a better time to smoke cigars. Best year ever. And there's a couple of these pundits out there who will say, well, we have record sales, right? Well, you don't award the Academy Award for the movie that sold the most tickets, right? You award it for something that's artistic, right? Well, it's the same thing here. Yeah, there may be a lot of cigars selling, but they're not necessarily the best cigars that are out. So we've been in this trend for about 4 or 5 years where I've seen a decrease in quality. I just don't see cigars anymore that are impacts. And it's across the board. It's not just the limiteds have really suffered. I mean, don't get started on limiteds, right? The limiteds have had a atrocious record this year, but the core lines, again, is there like a cigar that you have just had this year that, Matt, you're saying this is a wow cigar? I'm gonna go buy a box and I'm gonna keep buying boxes of this cigar. I got only a few.
There's been a few. I
Not a
won't name.
lot. Not a lot, though.
Not a lot. I'm not gonna name names, but
Okay.
The
ones I named were ones that I would go. I'm telling you, I'd go just continually stock up on.
There's been a couple. Then I'm like, yeah, I gotta have a box. Okay, I'll give one name because I mean, I am in love with the cigar. And I don't have a box yet, and it's on my list. But I have too much shit to smoke through first.
But guess what? You're thinking about it, so
yeah,
that's fine.
That's the Plasencia, Almafuerte, Colorado, Sixto.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that cigar. Really, really, really do. And I had the other
It's a very good cigar, by the way. I haven't reviewed it yet, but a very good cigar.
I had the other Sixto.
I agree. The Claro is better.
It was good. I found it to be tight. That roll I was skeptical about because of the shape, but it was a good cigar. I had the Colorado, way better. Way better. Love that cigar.
Yeah.
I think I have one I have one on me right now. But that's one that I would put in that category.
I wish
it's
they
a good example.
I wish they would do the Robusto in that wrapper, because I think the Robustus is the best size in that line, the regular Almaforte. But maybe that will come in time.
In general, I've noticed Nicole is big. She's a big Plasencia fan, and pretty much all of the Plasencias she has, she's got a couple different boxes of them. They're all Robustos. That's all she smokes. And she really enjoys them. And I've had her say to me, like, yeah, I had the other sizes, but like I like the Robusto.
They do a good Robusto. Alma de Fuego has a good Robusto.
Yeah.
The Almafuerte, they do a good job with the Robusto size. They do.
They do. And I think, even as just a whole, Plasencia has just been really on their game.
Very smart. Very smart. They're not throwing stuff into the market either. If you notice, they're slow what they're doing.
Yeah, they don't have too much to offer, which is not a bad thing at all. I think
they have 3 more Almas in the pipeline.
Oh yeah.
So they're not rushing those to market, if you notice.
Yeah, no.
And so.
Do you know? Not that we're gonna bring it up, but just out of curiosity, just because I want to know. Do you happen to know what kinds of things they're working on with those Almas?
I don't.
Okay.
I know there's like one with an Alma with a water theme, and I know the themes of some of them. I think one's land or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's like elements around tobacco, but I don't know what the blends are. I imagine though they're going to be very Nicaraguan focused.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, the new Coseca is the one they've tended to go more Honduran with. They focus a little more on Honduran tobacco.
That's Nicole's favorite.
The 146.
Yes, that's her favorite.
Good cigar, and I tell you, the 149, I can't wait to smoke that one. Nestor, I think he's doing a great job. And man, they what they did is they held back a lot of their tobaccos with the idea that we're going to launch a brand. So this was a very strategic move they made over the years, and they've got good tobacco. I mean, look, they know for years they struggled getting their own brand into market. They tried a few times beforehand and they just couldn't get it going. But now I think they got a handle on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I've enjoyed watching them grow. They've had some really good stuff
Yep.
come out. I mean, the Alma Del Campo, yeah,
Yep.
the gray band, the gray
Yep.
label.
Yep.
I think that was the first one I had, and that cigar really blew me away. That was a good cigar, and
Good.
then I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then I got into the Alma Fuerte line, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
I really love that. Then the Colorado came out, and I was like, okay, like now I'm a Plasencia guy.
And Armand Desante loves that Almaforte.
Mm,
In the interview we did with him, that is like his go-to cigar.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and like I said, that cigar is becoming in about 4 or 5 years. That cigar is going to be starting to be talked about. I think like Padron and Fuente. I really do. It takes a while to launch a brand into the market and build momentum. But I'm telling you, it's a great. Those are not cheap cigars, but they're selling.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the next thing that they put out. Like I really am because I want to see.
Yeah, I mean at 149. Wow, I just looked at that. I didn't get a sample at the show. I don't know if they were giving samples out of it. We caught Nestor very quickly at the show, so we're happy he gave us the time when he did. And that was one of the busiest booths at the show this year. I mean,
Right.
let me tell you that booth, I booths most traffic. I would probably put them and Alec Bradley had the most traffic.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a booth we didn't get to because of that. I mean,
It was
they
we
were
knew,
just packed
yeah,
from the
yeah.
beginning to the end, and we were just
They,
like, we're not gonna wait around. There's too much to do.
that was yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, we couldn't. They had to reschedule us a couple of times, and then we missed an appointment, and we didn't get to
Yep.
interview him in the 2019. We felt horrible. They're always a busy booth. It's just yeah. It's not just tire kickers in there. They're writing orders left and right.
Yeah. No, they are. It's and it's a shame because they were very high on our list too.
Yep.
Of people we really wanted to meet with and talk to. And I got to grab some of the people here and there for a quick little chat, but not enough to really get in the
That's
booth.
okay because at least you get your chat. Maybe you build a relationship that way. We literally were in the right place at the right time to get
Yeah.
Nestor.
Yeah.
Um, and Bear and I had a relationship with him, so it was a little easier. And I'll be honest, what happened? Nestor was talking to Jeff. We just were there. We said hello, and then Jeff said, "Hey, I'll step aside and you can interview Nestor." And Nestor was like, "If Jeff, you okay with that?" And he said, "Yeah." And he goes, "You guys okay with it?" We're like, "Yeah." And we got Nestor. We only did 5 minutes with him. We were very sensitive with the time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we had Bear and I had him on a show back a couple years ago. So we had the relationship. He knew who we were, and we've met with him at previous shows as well.
The last thing that we had on our docket for the show was actually non-cigar related,
Yes.
but
I want.
I know you wanted to bring this up, so let's get into it. Baseball,
Yes.
specifically with the American League East.
Which I know is near and dear to you. Yep.
It is. It is.
Right.
Tampa Bay has taken a nice strong hold on first place.
Yep.
Behind them is my Boston Red Sox, 9.5 games back at 80 wins, 63 losses. Before that, the Red Sox were at the top of the food chain for a while, and then they have had some setbacks. They kind of dropped them down the list.
Right.
The Yankees started to heat up, really start to gain steam and really have some growth there. And then they just began to kind of fall apart. And the Red Sox are now back in second place, and they're a little more stable. But I mean, they had a lot of COVID
Yep.
people in issues and stuff like that, and there's a piece to that too we can maybe talk about after. But I mean, the Yankees. I mean, I'm gonna let you go with this because this was your thing. You wanted to bring it up. The Yankees, man. I mean, they're about to drop to fourth place. I mean, they're literally dead even tied with Toronto.
Yep.
for third. And Toronto's probably going to overtake them at this point, and they're going to drop back to fourth place.
Which
What's
puts
going
them out
on
of the
there?
wild card. So let me just kind of preface this by saying, first of all, the Red Sox, you guys are playing with house money. No one expected you guys to be where you are this year.
I was surprised we even did as good as we did the
So,
first half of the year.
but now you're in it and you got to close the deal. I get it, right?
Yeah.
So I grew up in New York, right? But I am a Phillies fan, right? And contrary to what people believe, I'm not anti-Yankees. I
He
don't
loves
like
Gabe Kapler, though.
that guy's an idiot. Okay, that's another discussion. That's NL. Right. But boy, that guy's an idiot, right? But
hey, not for nothing. But Coop, who's the best team in baseball right now?
the San Francisco Giants.
That's right. They are.
Let me tell you. Let me just make a comment on this. Okay, I was out in San Francisco and I talked to several people out there. Okay, most of them agree with me that it's not Gabe Kapler to being a brilliant. They don't think he's as bad as I think he is, right? But it's Farhan Zaidi, who's the GM, has done one of the best jobs an executive's ever done. I mean, so that's where I think a lot. He got talent. He's got guys. I mean, but we'll put that one aside for now. Let's put that aside.
Okay.
Okay. So I grew up in New York. I don't hate the Yankees. I hate the fact that they cheated to those four World Series. All right, and that they got off the hook that easy, right? When other sports that didn't happen. Okay, so I don't hate, but here's the deal. I've followed the Yankees since 74, 75.
Okay.
There's been some really good Yankee teams. I mean, in New York, you can't help but not follow baseball. And there's been some really bad Yankee teams, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Stump Merrill years were atrocious for them, right? And the Mets have played that. Well, the Mets have a history of choking, okay? The one thing the Yankees have never done in this 46 years I've been following this team, they have never imploded in September. They may have lost a critical series, right? That may have cost them a division title like in '85. They've had those moments, but this is an epic collapse of the New York Yankees that we have never seen in my lifetime, is what I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
They have lost 6 in a row, right? At one point, they were 5.5 up in the wild card race, right? They may fall out of it tonight. And to give you an idea, it's 7-7 right now, okay, with the Mets. They were up 5-0. The Mets took a 7-5 lead. They still may come back and win this game, okay? And they're probably looking at the Toronto game and knowing they're fighting for their lives. They're probably looking at the scoreboard. My point is, I have never seen a Yankee implosion in the month of September in my lifetime like what has happened here. I've seen it with the Mets. Certainly my Phillies have had their implosions. But the Yankees have always been counted on playing good September baseball. So if you're a Yankee fan, you got to be worried right now of what you're saying. And that was the point I wanted to make. It's just we have never seen this happen in our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly had their moments.
They had yeah. You know, the 2004 series with the Red Sox, the when they blew the 3-0 lead, you can argue that was but that was an October implosion. And guess what? A lot of people who were Yankee fans were not comfortable with that 3-0 lead even at that point. So there was a lot of they just didn't feel easy. But that's October. I'm talking September. They've always found a way to get the wild card or win the division, and they found a way to get it done. This is the first if you're a Yankee fan. Something uncharted territory.
Well, it's funny you bring that because I was gonna bring up 04 because I mean, you want to talk about the worst collapse I've ever had. I mean, you're up 3-0 in the American League Championship Series to the Red Sox for the second year in a row. You're in the ALCS. You get up 3-0. I think game 3 was 19-8.
Yeah. But there were people
in Fenway Park.
They were worried about that series,
and they lose 4 in a row in the ALCS. I mean, that's pretty bad.
You wonder if the steroids had anything to do with it on both ends. I can't help it. I mean, it never happened before in baseball, but you know, you're still in the kind of getting towards the end of the steroid era. Again, gotta wonder just what happens sometimes.
Have you ever been to Fenway Park?
I've never been to Fenway Park.
Okay. So in Boston, Fenway Park is situated in the Fenway neighborhood. Hence, that's why it's called that.
I've seen it off the highway. I have seen it off the highway, yeah.
So we have we have the Massachusetts Turnpike, or the Pike as we call it.
Yep.
That runs past Fenway Park.
That's probably where I've seen it, yeah.
Behind Lansdowne. and that'll take you from Boston to Worcester, where it's Interstate 90, and it's so there's Fenway Park, there's Lansdowne Street, then there's the parking garage and the clubs, a railroad track, then the Mass Pike. And during the All-Star game in '99, Mark McGuire was hitting balls onto the Mass Pike, or pretty damn close to it. You tell me if steroids had an issue with that.
I said, we saw
Yeah,
things
that's
that
a long bomb to
we
hit.
saw Brady Anderson hit 51 home runs. I mean,
Yeah.
Luis Gonzalez hit 70. I mean, it's there's no doubt we saw things that we never saw before. Okay, we're not seeing those types of things anymore. It's not like now suddenly you can tell me that it had some impact. I get the excuse everyone was doing it. I get it. Doesn't make it right. But unfortunately, more of the Yankees got caught with that stuff. I mean, that whole list was all Yankees.
Yeah, I mean, and the Yankees are, a team that they don't like controversy either. So, and
Well,
they hold themselves to the highest regard in baseball. And they've had their fair share of issues.
Yeah.
Though.
One thing. Yeah.
Go ahead.
One thing I always wanted to see, even growing up in New York, was a Subway series. I mean, it always was something that was talked about. It did happen in 2020. I missed every game almost. I didn't see hardly any of it on TV. That was because my son Steven was born that on October 20th. So look, there were things that I had to deal with that, and I really didn't get to see much. So unfortunately, but I always will remember he was born during the Subway series, which is so pretty cool.
Yeah, Subway series is cool. There's California's got the Bay series.
They got the Bay series. Chicago's got the North Side versus the South Side.
Yeah,
and then obviously LA. I don't think the Angels Dodgers have really captured that as much. The LA battle.
Yeah, it kind of just it is what it
is. The Bay series, obviously the World Series in '89, the earthquake and all that. Aaron can talk a lot more about that. He's lived out there all his life. But the A's series was a big thing. So that year.
Yeah, there's been a lot of fun series that have gone on in baseball, and Subway series I think obviously being the biggest one. Mets and Yankees is always a big one, but yeah, I mean what as I'm trying to pull up in front of me, bear with me here. What was Blue Jays outcome today?
I have it up here. Let's see. The Blue Jays won
bottom of the
11-1.
11-1. Yeah,
They're
so
up
11-1 on Orioles.
Right.
If the Yankees lose this game, yeah, they go to fourth place.
There's got to be a sense of urgency that's going on in the dugout right now. The Yankees. It's 9-11. This is a big emotional series. So, but I think in this case, it's more about celebrating New York baseball than who wins. But obviously, I think both teams want to win this game on 9/11. So, but there's a big sense. I mean, the Mets are climbing back into it slowly. They're not out of it. The Phillies are where I thought the Phillies were going to be right now. The difference is I thought the Braves would be way ahead of us. So that's the only reason why I have hope. But it's Phillies baseball is about to wind out the year. We're not going to playoffs.
So let's talk about let's talk a little bit, since we're already on the topic of baseball and the American League East. Did you happen to catch the news of Brandon Hyde having some words from the dugout? I think it was yesterday's game. That was an interesting take.
He went like, yeah.
I don't even know how to.
It was a hot mic on. It was a hot mic on him.
Oh yeah, I mean, and then he apologized for it after. I don't know if it was a. I don't know if it was a. It sounds like it was a case of misunderstanding or miscommunication. But Robbie Ray is on the mound for Toronto, and you got Brandon Hyde in the dugout, the manager of the Baltimore Orioles, and he's screaming and yelling at Robbie Ray on the mound. And at one point, it was something I watched a clip, and some of the audio you could hear, and he's screaming at him and being like, "Yeah, throw the effing ball. Just hey man, throw the effing ball. Like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? Like, blah, blah, no one." And like they're going back, and I'm like, and you could see Robbie Ray's confused, like, what's the issue? What's going on
Yeah,
here?
he did apologize to. He did make an apology for the language.
Right.
He didn't apologize necessarily for the outburst, which I kind of understand. But yeah, I saw that. I'm sure this happens all the time, but unfortunately, hot mic'd. When you're hot mic'd, it's a hot mic.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been some drama in baseball this year. We kind of talk about the Red Sox. Hunter Renfroe came out, tried to accuse the league of telling the Red Sox to stop testing their players for COVID because they had too many hot cases come up, and they were trying to like, all right, like, well, like let's just kind of sweep it under the rug so we don't keep having issues with you guys. And then MLB comes back, of course, and says, well, that's not true. We never said that. Blah blah blah. Anybody who knows me and my relationship to things that I know about Major League Baseball, honestly, either side of that story could be true. I'll just come right out to say it. I would not be surprised if MLB really did say that. And now they've got caught and they're trying to, oh no, we didn't say that. Yeah, I could totally see that happening. I've heard of and I've seen some things in my time. Yeah, I could see that. It's just very interesting, very very interesting. And the Red Sox, they had a lot. They had a lot of COVID cases come up, and also which also played I think a large part in their later season. I don't want to call it a complete collapse, but they fell from the grace that they were holding. They were cruising along in first place, and I was like, I didn't think this was happening. And then all of a sudden, like it was COVID case after COVID case, and then they started to slip through the standings, and Tampa Bay took a solid grasp on first place, which I think they got for the rest of the season at this point, unless they completely
They're
collapse.
9.5. They're 9.5 up with like 20 something games to go. 20.
Yeah, I
20
mean,
games.
unless they get ravaged with a bad COVID outbreak in the clubhouse, and that team just implodes because like everyone's out. I think that they got it, but the Red Sox have a chance now at this point to grab that wild card spot at least. They have a chance. I'm not saying it's golden
They
goose,
have a
but
chance. I mean, it's pretty much there's 5 teams competing for the 2 wild card spots: Boston, Toronto, Yankees, Mariners, and A's.
yeah,
Mariners and A's are a little further back, but they're not out of it.
right. So I don't know. It's going to be an interesting downturn for the rest of the year. As we close out the 2021 season. A little bit different than I anticipated. I mean, I thought the Dodgers would be a little bit better than they are now. Not that they're being horrible, but I thought they'd be a little bit better.
I mean, I know the Trevor Bauer thing's completely, but how are the Dodgers? How do you let a Gabe Kapler team? I mean, they just
Is this about Gabe Kapler, or is this just about the Dodgers?
This is both. Listen,
I mean the Giants.
Here's what I'm gonna say. If anyone sat through 364 games of Gabe Kapler like I did, and I watch a lot and I listen to a lot of baseball. I had 364 games of this guy, all right, and his newfangled approach to baseball. I think he's made some changes though since going to San Francisco. I don't think he's trying to prove to be different anymore. And he's got like the argument people says the front office, in the Philadelphia, I let the front office off the hook, right? It was like it wasn't Kapler, it was the front office. It was both. Okay. The front office was atrocious in Philadelphia. And guess what? They cleared house after the 2020 season. They cleared house with that. So they got rid of, because the front office, look, they never built the farm system. It was a disaster, right? It was both, right? Equal. But Kapler, look, and I'll just say Kapler was at a point he could not effectively manage in Philadelphia anymore. He was hated. when you're hated that much, you can't have this guy running your team. And he was hated by the fans. The players weren't in love with him in the locker room. They had to make a change there. Okay, it's not like he wasn't good. If he stuck there, he wasn't going to turn the Phillies around.
Right. Yeah,
But he's
I
awful.
mean,
He's awful. He's all. I could give you examples like how bad he is.
I know that he has a huge spot of hate in your heart, and I get
Well,
it.
I never like to use the word hate, right? But look, the guy was the guy. Look,
I'm just
it-
stirring the pot.
the hate word. The hate word is an easy excuse, right? But look, I've watched managers with the Phillies over the years, and we've had some bad managers. We've had some really good ones. There's no way this guy was a good manager in Philadelphia. He was. I mean, he had one of the most. You want to talk about epic collapses? The 2018 season was one of the worst collapses in baseball history after the All-Star break. It was pathetic what happened. And then they were playing Fortnite in the locker room. And here's the other thing that was happening with Kapler that people don't realize. We weren't just getting beat, all right? We were getting annihilated in these games, right? Losing by 10 runs, 15 runs. It was never a comeback. You may say, all right, Girardi doesn't have the record. Okay. But guess what?
Oh,
The
it's
Phillies,
sorry. Pause on what you're saying. It's 8-7 Yankees now, middle of the game.
well, the Yankees are coming back. I mean, they're doing what they need to do.
They need it, but
Right.
continue.
Yeah, but not over yet. They're fighting for this one, all right. And look, they're playing the Mets. Keep in mind, but no, I mean, there was just some. At least Girardi, they're competitive. They come back in games. They're never out for dead right now. He doesn't have the record, but don't forget, they're just starting the process of they just reconstructed the front office. It's going to take a couple of years now to get these players in, and I think they'll get the job done.
Yeah, I would agree. With any team rebuild, it takes some time.
Look, you guys have a great GM, by the way, or president. The guy they got from Tampa, that guy knows what he's doing. You got
Chaim Bloom.
Chaim Bloom. I think he's a great executive. I think that was a great hire by the Red Sox, and you're starting to see it now.
Well, remember, he's a small market GM working with a big team payroll.
He is, but he also, I think, set that foundation in Tampa for winning culture. I mean,
like if you look at all right, so like there's a way you can look at this. So like by that I meant he knows how to pinch and work with short money to make a good team. So it's like
right.
Now do that with a lot of money. Which again, I mean,
that hasn't always worked.
It hasn't always worked, but he's got some skill there and some potential to put something good together. I mean, he did okay so far this year. I mean, the team wasn't shit. I mean, they're not the Baltimore Orioles. They're in the fight ish. I mean, they got some good chance there. I'll give them that. They're not like just garbage out. So he's done so far so good. But look at what Dave Dombrowski did for us. Yes, we got a title in 18. Obviously, we got a World Series, but look what he did. He went out there over the salary cap, spent a lot of money, gutted our farm system to, traded everybody away, sold everybody to get, a World Series team in 2018. And it was a good year. And we had first place, I think, almost the whole way from beginning to end. And we had a great team. We were the best team in baseball, 108 wins in the regular season. I think it was a franchise record. But at what cost? I mean, he gutted us. He spent a lot of money. I mean, he got what he paid for. Really, he got what he paid for. He wanted a World Series title. He paid for it. But then, look what happens after that's over. I mean,
there was
nothing left.
Right. But here's what I'm going to say. So when Dombrowski got hired by the Phillies, this is what everyone told me. He gutted the Boston Red Sox farm system. You know what my answer was? Please gut our farm system. Please find a way to gut this farm system because it's one of the worst farm systems in baseball.
Right.
Honestly, it was like if he could find a way to get rid of some of this garbage, right, and get some players who could play now. I mean, he got rid of Spencer Howard, who was Spencer Howard was traded to the Rangers, and Spencer Howard got sent to the minors in the Rangers after like a few games.
Yeah.
I mean, so Spencer Howard was this highly touted prospect for folks who don't know. And he was not good. I mean, he just wasn't good. He was built up to something he wasn't at all capable of doing. So I'm hoping that he guts our farm system. Please gut our farm system. Please sign a couple of free agents overpriced.
Yeah.
It
We
would,
could
it,
do we could do a whole show just on baseball. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
surprised. I'm surprised you haven't even started another podcast just for baseball.
We've had a couple of cigar people on with we have the cigar people like Miguel and Hector on, and we do baseball like a couple of times a year. But we kind of do it in the context of cigar people. So we do cigar stuff too. But yeah, doing a sports podcast is hard because it's
Oh, it
something that
is.
because it really involves you have to watch a lot of games. I thought about doing an NFL one, but it hasn't happened because basically I don't have the time to
Yeah.
do it.
Oh, I hear you. I hear
Yeah.
you. Hey, we're getting to the 2 hour mark. Want to probably wrap this up soon.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, it's been a great conversation as always with you,
Yeah.
Coop. And
Absolutely.
I think we covered a lot of bases. This week on the Smoking Tobacco Show, we got Travis Lord coming up. And we're gonna get into some cigar business marketing. He's got some stuff he wants to talk about, and share with the audience. So I think that'll be a much different episode than we're normally kind of used to being in. Coop, what you got coming up?
So we just recorded before this show, Jukebox episode 49. Matt Ty from How About That Cigar was our guest, and it was a jazz show.
Oh, nice.
So we have a whole jazz show coming up on Monday. Matt's a very, very he knows a lot about jazz. So to have a guy like him on there was really good. You'll love Tuesday's show.
Ooh.
On Special Edition 106. Boofy is on.
Oh.
Now he's going to be on with Bear and I. It's the first time Bear and I have interviewed him together. Aaron and I have done the other interviews, so this time he's going to be on Tuesday.
Wasn't he just on with you though?
He was on in January.
Wow, he's already back.
He's already back. We didn't make him wait a year. So
wow. Well, then again, I didn't either. I had him on 3 months later but that was a special episode. But still.
So, but again, we're kind of switching the gears a little. He's got some stuff we could talk about from the show. So we're doing that, and then Thursday's show is we have to finalize who that get. Like we have someone, but I want to wait for the final confirmation. That could be a pretty good show if that's going to happen on Thursday. So I don't want to announce it just because it may not. It could still fall, but I'm 90% sure at this point it's happening. So pretty excited if that happens.
You can tell me in the green room.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'll find out.
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, we have a pretty big schedule of people coming up for the Smoke and Tobacco Show. And I'll pull that up right here in front of me too. I'll read those off. We have Travis Lord, followed by Abe Flores on the 23rd. On the 30th, we round out September with Scott Pierce from the PCA. Heading into October on the 7th, we have Nick Perdomo making his return to the Smoke and Tobacco Show, followed by Tom Lazuka the week after that. October 21st, we have our friend Reinhard from Light 'em Up World and Cigar Journal. And on the 28th, we have Christian Aroa coming on to end out October with a special episode on September 25th. There's also going to be that's our next Spare Notes episode. It'll be Spare Notes number 7.
Yep.
But before that episode at 3 p.m. Eastern, we're doing a special interview with the one and only Jeremiah Marifel.
It'll be fun.
From the Marifel family. We're going to talk a little bit about Cameroon tobacco. A lot of people who know Jeremiah know that's obviously probably the biggest thing with them. And all the Cameroon tobacco that they sell to the Fuente family and various others. But that's going to be a special episode that's coming up. We'll have the information for that posted as well as a reminder because it is outside of our regular broadcasting time. But Jeremiah's over in Europe with the time change. Kind of had to do something a little bit different to get him on that was a little bit more convenient for him. So hence why we're kind of doing a separate episode for him, just to make it work. Make it work for him. We will do it live. But if you don't catch it on Saturday afternoon, it'll be up on all the podcast apps and channels as well as our Facebook and YouTube page. So it will be up after that as well. Coop, it's been a great time, buddy.
Absolutely.
And so it will be it'll be a 3-episode week for me the next time we talk.
I have a 3-episode week coming up. Yeah. So it's gonna be and then the actually our Texas trip has officially been canceled.
Oh, it has. Okay.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that. I haven't made a final decision. I'm still gonna go out there myself, but I'm kind of leaning towards rescheduling that. So I have to talk to the guys on that.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta
Um,
be. You gotta do what you gotta do, man.
Yep,
I totally hear it.
So yeah, but we have some stuff also coming up on Smoking Syndicate as well with some group stuff. So with the team, so we're getting excited about that with Ben. So
Yeah. Well, you know what? I think we're gonna end it there, guys.
Yep.
We will gonna wrap up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on all of our platforms and social media. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care.